Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we sift through the noise for key insights. Today, exploring the wild idea of reviving the dodo.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. We sift through the noise articles, research notes, and pull out the insights you need. Today, we're getting into something that honestly sounds like pure science fiction. But, well, it's happening. Picture the dodo. You know, that iconic flightless bird from Mauritius. It's become this huge symbol of extinction caused by humans, gone within decades of people showing up in the late 1600s, wiped out. Pretty stark, really. But here's the twist. What if that story isn't actually finished? What if we could somehow bring the dodo back?
It's a pretty audacious idea, isn't it? And that's what our deep dive is all about today. We're looking at the science, the really cutting-edge stuff, the people involved, the ethical knots, and let's be honest, the huge practical problems in trying to de-extinct the dodo.
Exactly. We want to give you a clear picture of this whole ambitious project. How are they even attempting this? Who's behind it? What massive questions does it raise about conservation, about our place in nature?
And what are the roadblocks? It's not just can we do it, but what does attempting it really mean for conservation for the future?
Right. So let's start with the why. Why the dodo? Out of all the extinct creatures, why focus so much energy on this particular bird?
Well, as you said, it's iconic. Its extinction was just so fast, so clearly linked to human arrival. It really is the textbook case. That gives it this immense symbolic power, a reminder of, well, our impact.
So there's a moral angle, kind of like trying to right a historical wrong. I remember Ben Lamb from Colossal Biosciences saying something like that.
Yeah, that humans caused it, so humans could maybe fix it and even help the ecosystem recover in the process. That idea of ecological atonement is definitely part of the motivation for some.
But it's more than just symbolic, isn't it? I mean, for the scientists involved.
Oh, absolutely. For many, like Dr. Beth Shapiro, who's a real leader in this field, the DODO project is a driver for innovation. She talks about building critically needed tools for avian genomics.
So it's like a test case.
Exactly. The techniques they developed for the dodo, maybe figuring out how to edit genetic diversity back into bird populations, those tools could be huge for helping living endangered birds. It could boost genetic rescue efforts across the board.
Okay, so that makes sense. A mix of wanting to fix a past mistake and developing tools for the future. But the how, that's where it gets really mind-bending. Where do you even begin without a living dodo?
You start with the traces left behind, ancient DNA. Scientists scrape together tiny, degraded fragments of DNA from old museum specimens, like the famous one at Oxford.
And the big leap was sequencing the whole genome, right? Yeah. Back in 2022, Shapiro's team managed that.
That was huge, yes. A complete genetic map pieced together from hundreds of different samples. It was a massive undertaking. And crucially, earlier work had already shown the Nicobar pigeon is its closest living relative.
Okay, so you have the dodo's blueprint and its nearest cousin. Then comes the genetic engineering part, using CRISPR.
Precisely. You compare the dodo genome with the Nicobar pigeon's genome. You hunt for the key differences, the genes that coded for, its size, its flightlessness, that unique beak.
And then CRISPR-Cas9 lets you go into the pigeon's DNA and make targeted changes. Kind of like find and replace, but for genes.
That's a good way to think about it, yeah. Making precise edits to nudge the pigeon genome towards the dodo's blueprint. It's similar to what they're trying with the woolly mammoth, using elephant DNA as the base.
Right, and Colossal Biosciences, they're really pushing this avian genomics angle.
They are. They have a whole team working on making these editing techniques faster, more efficient for birds. It's a major research focus.
But cloning a bird isn't like cloning a sheep, is it? There's a snag with the eggs.
A big snag. Bird eggs are just too big and full of yolk. You can't get to the crucial bits at the right stage like you can with mammals, so forget traditional cloning. It just won't work for birds.
So the workaround is this PGC thing, primordial germ cells. Sounds complicated.
It's clever, actually. PGCs are the very early cells that eventually become sperm or eggs. So the idea is extract these PGCs from a developing Nicobar pigeon embryo before they fully form.
Okay, so you get them out early.
Then you edit their DNA in the lab using CRISPR to add those dodo genes.
So you're editing the reproductive cells outside the bird.
Exactly. Then you inject these edited PGCs into a very young host embryo. Could be a chicken, maybe another pigeon species.
A chicken, really?
Potentially, yeah. That host bird hatches and grows up. Now, its body is, say, a chicken's body, but its reproductive system, its sperm or eggs, carries the edited dodo-like genetic code. It becomes a chimera.
Whoa. So the chicken itself isn't a dodo, but it can produce dodo sperm or eggs.
That's the idea. Then you breed these chimeras together, a male chimera producing dodo-like sperm, a female chimera producing dodo-like eggs. Their offspring could potentially have the full engineered dodo genome.
And that resulting egg would hatch into your dodo proxy.
Uh-huh.
Incredible. But wait, dodos were huge, right? Much bigger than Nicobar pigeons. How does a small pigeon lay a dodo-sized egg? Or even a chicken?
That is one of the biggest hurdles. The size mismatch is a massive problem. Beth Shapiro has talked about maybe needing to engineer a larger surrogate pigeon first, gradually modify the host species over generations to handle a bigger egg.
So like engineering the incubator as well as the dodo itself. That adds layers of complexity.
It really does. It's not just one breakthrough needed, but several. Colossal did report progress late last year, though. They managed to culture Nicobar pigeon PGCs and get them to take hold in chicken embryos.
Okay, so that's a step. Proving that PGCs can survive in a host.
Right. Now they're testing if those chicken hosts can actually produce pure Nicobar pigeon offspring. The vision seems to be this multi-stage process. Chickens to multiply the germ cells, then maybe modified pigeons to actually hatch the dodo proxies.
It sounds incredibly ambitious. And I guess nobody's actually hatched an extinct bird proxy this way yet.
No, not yet. This is all uncharted territory. It's true frontier science.
And it takes more than just brilliant science, right? Who's actually funding and driving this whole thing?
The main engine is Colossal Biosciences. It's a biotech company co-founded by Ben Lamb, a tech entrepreneur, and George Church, a giant in genetics from Harvard. They've raised serious money, over $150 million by early 2023.
And Beth Shapiro, the genome sequencer, she's on board with them now. Wasn't she skeptical at first?
She was, yeah. But now she's their chief science officer. Her view seems to be that, look, this is a way to push the science forward, especially developing tools that will help existing bird conservation. Her university lab still does the foundational genomics work.
So it's a mix of private drive and academic expertise. But what about on the ground in Mauritius?
That's crucial. They've partnered with the Mauritian Wildlife Foundation, the MWF. They're the local experts, the leading conservation group there. They're handling the habitat restoration, clearing invasive species, replanting native forests, and planning for how a dodo might actually be reintroduced someday.
That partnership seems vital. You can't just create a dodo in a lab and drop it onto the island.
Absolutely not. Having MWF involved signals real local buy-in and focuses on the ecological side, which benefits wildlife there right now, like the endangered pink pigeon.
Which brings us to the really big questions beyond the lab work. The ethics, the ecology. It gets complicated fast.
It really does. One of the biggest debates is about priorities. You have people like Dr. Julian Hume asking, basically, why spend potentially millions on bringing back something extinct when so many species are critically endangered right now? Shouldn't resources go there?
That's a tough question. The opportunity cost.
It is. Colossal argues their funding is mostly new investment, not pulled from traditional conservation budgets, and that the tech spin-offs, the genetic rescue tools, will eventually help those endangered species anyway. It's not necessarily either, in their view.
It's a tricky balance. Then there's the question of, well, is it really a dodo?
Right, the authenticity debate. It won't be a 100% genetic match. It'll be a proxy built on a Nicobar pigeon base, probably with pigeon mitochondrial DNA. Shapiro herself says it can't be an exact replacement.
So the value isn't necessarily in perfect restoration, but maybe in the attempt, the knowledge gained, the inspiration.
That seems to be a key part of the argument, yes. And then you have animal welfare concerns. Think about the surrogate animals used in the process and the challenges for a dodo proxy born into a world it hasn't experienced with no other dodos to learn from.
Yeah, someone pointed out, who teaches a dodo how to be a dodo? It needs to be physically and psychologically okay.
Ensuring that well-being is a huge ethical responsibility. Colossal talks about rewilding, which implies long-term care, but getting there, that's complex.
And ecologically. Mauritius isn't the island it was 300 years ago.
Not at all. Forests clear, different plants, different dynamics. Habitat restoration is essential, and that's where MWF comes in, doing that hard work.
Plus, the things that killed the dodo off, rats, monkeys, pigs, they're still around.
Still major threats. So any reintroduction needs serious, ongoing invasive species control. The upside is the focus the Dodo project brings is already helping boost those control efforts, which helps everything else.
And the dodo's role, it ate fruit, right? Spread seeds.
Likely, yes, a large frugivore. It might have played a role in dispersing seeds of certain native trees, like maybe the Calvaria tree, though that's debated. So, a revived dodo could potentially help forest regeneration, similar to how reintroduced giant tortoises are helping on some Mauritian islands now.
But the ecosystem isn't identical, so its role might not be exactly the same. Needs careful thought.
Absolutely, you can't just assume it slots back into its old niche perfectly.
Okay, so vision, science, players, big questions. What about the practical side? This sounds incredibly difficult and probably long.
Immensely difficult. Just the gene editing, changing potentially millions of DNA letters across many genes to get dodo traits like size and flightlessness. They talk about incremental editing, meaning it could take many generations, many years.
So we're not talking next year or even in 5 years necessarily? Yeah.
Definitely not. Scientists are talking maybe a decade or more just to get a living proxy hatched. And that assumes they overcome all the scientific hurdles, which isn't guaranteed. Remember, as of now, no living de-extinct animal from any of Colossal's projects actually exists yet.
Right. These are still very much moonshots. And the cost sustaining this long-term must be phenomenal.
The initial venture capital is significant, but long-term funding for care, monitoring, breeding, habitat management, that's a huge question. Who pays for that decade after decade? The MWF partnership is positive, but a sustainable plan is critical. Bringing it back is one challenge. Keeping it going is another.
Okay, let's try and wrap this up. The DODO de-extinction project. It's this incredible mix of high-tech science, conservation ambition, maybe some nostalgia too, pushing boundaries.
For sure. And key steps have been taken. The genome is done, the partnerships are there, the PGC work is moving forward.
And importantly, even if a dodo never hatches, the effort itself seems to be valuable.
I think that's fair to say. The full genome sequence is a resource. The advances in bird gene editing could be huge for conservation. The international collaboration it fosters. These are real outcomes, regardless of the end result with the dodo itself.
It leaves us with a really big thought, doesn't it? Is this quest to resurrect the dodo a turning point, showing we can maybe undo some past damage?
Yeah.
Or is it more of a fascinating but ultimately niche scientific sideshow? What does it all tell us about where we're headed with technology, nature, and our own responsibilities? Something for you to ponder.